there, so I can totally blame you for being late. So we're late because John had to get up and get his beer.
Well, I'm sorry. It's kind of important for the show, Jeff.
It is. It really is. And on that note, welcome to Talking Heads, everyone. Episode 382. Your once-week live show for the latest in beer and tech news. I'm Jeff.
I'm John.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining on this Wednesday night or in podcast form over on Spotify or wherever your favorite podcasts are found. If you've never seen the show before, we talk beer, we talk tech, we talk games, pop culture, entertainment, sometimes some Star Trek. All super chats are read on the air. Am I hearing an echo from you? Probably, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Chris, you are. Yeah. There we go. Took care of it.
All super chats are read on the air, so long as they will not permanently demonetize the channel. We do drink alcohol on the show, and if you're drinking along with us, alcoholic or not, let us know in the chat, and we'll give some early show shoutouts as we go along. Last but not least, if you'd like to take part in the super secret chat and the even more super secret after party, think about joining the Patreon. Link is down in the video description. As a bonus, you'll get exclusive access to my Discord server, where you can chat with myself, John, Rhett, Steve, all the hosts from Talking Heads, and join the awesome community that hangs out over there. Whew.
Yep. It's a mouthful.
That's an intro. Feeling good tonight, though.
Yep.
I think I'm feeling good because I had a pregame, so...
I call that lunch.
Yeah. Man, gosh, it seems like every time I am scheduled to leave the country for any length of time, like bounce up to Vancouver, BC for 2 days, or fly to Taipei for 10 days, one of my sump pumps inevitably fails. The day before or 2 days before I leave. And just like clockwork, about 1 o'clock this afternoon, my sister goes, "Hey, is someone messing with the breaker?" And I went, "No." And she goes, "Oh, we just lost power downstairs in like bedroom and the kids' bedrooms and whatnot." I'm like, "Oh, crap. That's probably a sump." So went and checked the breaker out, and yeah, the breaker was flipped, so I turned it back on. Didn't feel warm, anything like that. Went downstairs and opened the hatch to under the house, and wafting smoke coming through. Immediately ran back upstairs, turned the breaker back off. Probably shouldn't have done it in that order. But yeah, the sump pump was doing its damnedest to catch on fire. The only reason it hadn't was it was sitting in about a foot of water in the drainage tank. So yeah, instead of working on packing for Taipei or working on some scripting or shooting a last minute video to publish before I leave, I got to replace a sump pump again.
It's what dreams are made of, Jeff. That's what you want to do.
I don't know what happened to this one either. It was a very over-spec'd pump for the work that I'm having it do. The float wasn't stuck on. It was doing its job. I think the impeller just seized. There's no rocks or anything stuck in it, because sometimes that can happen. But it's in its own, graded drainage tank within the pump. There's gravel around it, but there's no way it could kick up a rock. And any rocks that it kicks up, it's powerful enough to just shoot them right on out. So I don't know what happened, but... yeah, you let the smoke out. Yeah, there's a genie that lives inside each electronic device, and once you rub on it just the right way and let that genie out, you can't get the genie back in. And electronics don't work anymore. So that was fun. Always a good time when there's nearly a fire and smoke billowing out from underneath your house, and it's like, God dang it.
Now what? Better that. Well, I guess I was gonna say better than a server, but no, probably not.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, I got done with that about 4:30. Had to drive to Lowe's, had to get a sump pump, had to
That's almost fell.
Crawl under the house, get the old one dug out from dirty, smoky, acrid water. Get the new one.
Deserved a beer.
Deserved a beer. So yeah, about 4:30, I cooked myself up a couple of rancher burgers, which are my absolute. Rancher burger is like my comfort food. Burger with a fried egg on top and a little bit of barbecue sauce. Just chef's kiss. So I had two of those. Should not have had two of those, but I did anyway. And then and then a Rogue Kolsch, just to top that off.
There you go.
So that was fantastic.
Nice refreshing malty goodness.
Yes. Anyway, let's go ahead and get the show going. John.
Yeah.
I know you're chomping at the bit to open. What do you got?
Yes. So I saw this. I'm pretty sure it's technically not beer. Because it doesn't say it's beer, but it doesn't say it's not beer. But the fact that it says contains alcohol makes me think probably not beer.
Good enough for this channel.
Right? Exactly. And it's from Lagunitas, but it's their uncensored punch.
Ooh.
And it's not, but here's the kicker. It's 9%, which makes me think,
ooh,
this is basically
malt
probably
liquor.
going to be like malt liquor.
Yeah.
Right?
This
but
is
it's Lagunitas.
Is it going to be like a 9% Bartles and James or a oh, you know what I've seen a couple of times, and actually I've had a couple of them and they're not terrible. I can't remember who makes them, but there's a company out there that's doing 10% canned cocktails. And there's like a pineapple margarita, there's a strawberry daiquiri, there's a blueberry punch. The blueberry's awful, but the strawberry margarita and the pineapple, those are both absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. It's very pleasant red looking, but
I mean,
it doesn't.
If you said punch and then you poured me that's the color I assume it would be.
It smells like alcoholic fruit punch.
Yeah. Again, that's exactly what I would expect. I had this beer just a couple of months ago. I was in the store today and I'm like, crap, I need beer for tonight. I'm not going to crack open a 2018 Bourbon County Proprietors tonight. I need just a couple IPAs. And so I was looking at the beer section, and I thought I had grabbed one 4-pack of Fort George, and I ended up grabbing a different pack of Fort George and didn't realize it. So it's one that I've had before, but it's the Electric Surfboard double IPA.
Oh,
yeah. This was pretty fantastic last time I had it. Again, 9%, just like you. So we're going tit for tat on that one. And just to rub it in, I'll go ahead and do it in the Hops and Brews glass.
There we go. Well,
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
There we go. Yeah, twinsies.
I'm probably gonna bet yours tastes better than mine.
I was going to assume, but I wasn't going to ask too many questions either. Because when I see alcoholic fruit punch, it goes one of two ways.
Yeah, and really, majority of the time, I think it's the wrong way.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Who else is what else do we got going in the chat tonight? Let's see. Praetorkson, I think is how you say that. 45 Drives has been teasing an HL15 2.0 with Epic in it. Do you have any inside baseball info on pricing? The price of the regular one already went up $400 since I started drooling over it. Yeah, pricing on server stuff has not gone down at all for years. And I'm actually not surprised that the base model was that Ice Lake? I think it was an Ice Lake chip that came with the base model HL15. If you're looking for the complete build, went up a little bit. I have not heard of an Epic based HL15. I did talk to 45 Drives a couple of weeks ago about some things, but not about that. I gave him some feedback on the Beerinator. So this is how I know this company gets it, is the Beerinator. Number one, I went to 45 Drives and I heard that they made a Beerinator at one point, which was an AV15 or an AV45 chassis that they welded shut and filled with ice for a company party. And I'm like, I need a Beerinator in my server rack. Could you guys get me a Beerinator? And the owner of the company says, we'll get you a Beerinator. Lo and behold, they shipped me a Beerinator, not only an ice chest, but a full 120 watt Peltier, like designed box, and put it up on their store so you can buy one. And my response to this was, number one, I love you. I love you for doing this. I love projects like this. But let's be real. This is stupid. There's nothing I can say to anyone at all watching a review of this product who I will convince to go buy one. You either want this product because it's cool, or you want to impress a client, or you've got a man cave or a home lab or something like that, and you've got $1,600 extra on a flex. That's what this product is. And I love them for it. But I said in the video, this thing is stupid. The owner of the company, Doug, got me on a call, I think last week, and he goes, I love you for saying that. By the way, Doug sounds like a Canadian J.K. Simmons. And so if I roll into that voice, that's kind of why. He's got that little bit gravelly kind of voice. Talks in like little bit disjointed sentences like this, but you don't know where the punctuation goes, if it's a comma or a period, and then he'll speed up and sometimes he'll slow down. And but he goes, I love you for saying that about this product, because we're not trying to convince anyone to do it, but at the same time, I love that you gave ideas on how we can make it better. And maybe we build a 2.0 version with the changes that you had in mind. And I went, oh, I have even more ideas for ways we could make this better. We could incorporate a fan controller, so we could keep the heat sinks at a constant temperature and lower the noise of the server overall. That'd be just a couple of dollars to integrate something like that. Inside the chamber, the circulation isn't all that great because they have the Peltier cold plate right up against the fans. There's like 2 millimeters of space between there. So there's no area for the air to actually suck in behind the fans, get exposed to the Peltier, and then blow out. It does a decent job at cooling the chamber, but it can only hit like 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which for craft beer, cold enough. For Coors Light, definitely not. And I said, man, if you just cut a channel length aluminum heatsink with like 12 fins in it, like something ridiculously inexpensive on AliExpress, and literally just affix that to the cold plate and gave the air somewhere to move in and then more surface area before it touched the fans, you'd triple your cooling ability inside the chamber. And I think you could do it within the footprint that it already exists. And so they actually took notes, and we might see like an upgraded Beerinator here very, very shortly.
Or like a craft, they should call it the craft computing like version or model or something like that.
Right, yeah.
That's what they should do.
Well, I already adopted Craftinator for my Storinator, my AV15 file server. So Craftinator was already taken. Although, man, if they're gonna take my design notes more than just you need to build this, then maybe I'll pitch Craftinator for a version 2.0 product name. That'd be kind of fun.
Or they call it's the Beerinator 2.0, and they call it the El Jefe.
Yeah. There you go. The Gavin Belson edition, exactly. Yeah, we can get the signature edition.
You can CC it. It's Craft Computing Edition.
Yeah. But anyway, no, I haven't heard anything on an upgraded HL15. But next time I talk to him, I'll ask.
Looks like Circuit Rewind is having a Prickling Paradise 2-town cider.
2-town. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, very good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Jason is having a Juice Dust IPA, 8.2%.
Little Legion.
By
Nice.
Legion. Yes. We got Harley's having a Founders Mortal Doom Imperial Thorn IPA, 8%. I don't know if I've ever had that one.
I mean, I obviously know Founders, but
yeah,
Mortal Doom.
Founder. That's a new one. Or Mortal Bloom, sorry. But no, I have not had that. It's a new hazy.
It's a hazy.
It looks like. Yeah, I have not had that one. I'll be on the lookout.
Yeah.
Cool.
Ooh, Coffee and Cynicism.
Yeah,
Hop and Frog. Chorus. The Quasher Quadruple Oatmeal Imperial Stout, 15.7 ABV, 4.22 on Untapped, and it is every bit of that. Yes.
Yeah.
Oft Infinity, Bravis Brewing, Peanut Butter Dark, 0.5%, so a low ABV peanut butter porter, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Skull grabbed a good one for all those who lost jobs this week. New Holland Brewing, Crimson Keep, the Dragon's Milk Red Ale. My absolute favorite Dragon's Milk, and again, that's high praise because Dragon's Milk is just incredible. But the Red Ale, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, no, these chocodiles, oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, I think the favorite one I've ever had was that
the horchata.
The horchata one.
Yeah.
That was the best one I've ever had.
Have you had the red that I gave you yet?
Yes. Oh, very good. Okay. Very good red.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the memory of just having that horchata is like just was so epic at the time, but like, oh my gosh, I've never had anything like this before.
Yeah.
It was so,
and it was on draft, and it was at a Brewers Fest in which we had already had a couple.
There's that too. Yes.
The only beer event ever, the only time either John or I have ever been cut off.
Yep.
Which was funny because it was like our fourth beer.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say like, and there really shouldn't have been a reason for it. It was more of like we were just so excited to have that beer and just reacting to it. I think everyone around us was like, oh, they're overreacting. It's like, no, it's that good.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, you're cut off.
Yeah. No, it wasn't the horchata that we were reacting to. We went back and got that later. What it was there was one specific beer that we were trying to get in the specialty tent. And so you and I like had an IPA or two each, and then we're like, let's go hit specialty tent before we're too inebriated to feel feelings anymore. And so we went over there, and we got in line for like some 10 or 12% German that both of us really wanted to try, or it was something like that. And we were in the line for this. There's like 12 taps inside of this tent, and we're in the German line, and the guy in front of John blows the keg.
Oh yeah.
So we were literally 1A and 1B away from getting our 2-ounce pour, and the keg blew. And so we're like, we're hamming it up a little bit. But nothing aggressive, nothing like, oh, you sons of, I can't believe, but like, oh, I really want to try that one. Ah, come on, you're killing me, Smalls. Just like that kind of vibe, and just trying to have some fun. And so we end up like, John goes to the left and I go to the right to like the next pours and go, okay, well, since we're at the front of the line, can we just get the front of the line from either side? And they went, yeah, it's fine. And we're still flicking him crap, and John's doing his normal trick of like, my eyes are up here. Don't pay attention to the pour line. Hey, how you doing, honey? We're just having fun. And a guy walks over and very stern and gets up right in my personal space and goes, I think you boys have had about enough. I think you need to go get some water, go sit down, and think about whether or not you guys want to continue to be here. Thank you. I'm like, I've had 4 ounces.
I know. We walk around like, wait, what? Was that real?
Wait, did we just... Yeah, and they wouldn't let us back in the specialty tent.
Yeah, they wouldn't. We got denied for the rest of the day. Yeah, that was fun. Good times.
Yeah, I think you boys have had about enough. Verbatim. That was the phrase. You know what I have not had enough of? Electric surfboard. Like,
really?
I was trying to get... Fort George had like 2 or 3 new IPAs on the shelf that I hadn't had. Mm-hmm. And I was debating between all of them. And I think in my haste to grab a couple extra 4-packs, I reached up and I just grabbed electric surfboard. Not that I'm disappointed, though. This is... citrusy in a little bit different way. Where it's definitely a Northwest. It's the Northwest response to the hazies, because the hazies came out in like the early 2012, 2013-ish, like really started to get popularity, New England IPA, which were like citrusy fruit bombs, but that you couldn't drink more than four ounces of because they just burn your throat away. But the flavor, oh my gosh, the flavor, that's why that style stuck around and became the hazy IPA. And they figured out how to do that real intense fruit flavor without also clawing the skin of your esophagus down. In response, in the late 2010s, Northwest IPAs started introducing more and more citrus, trying to brighten them up a little bit, because Northwest
a lot
IPAs
of that mosaic and stuff.
A lot more mosaic, a lot more Simcoe. This is kind of like one of those responses to a hazy. Now, mind you, it is crystal freaking clear.
Now that's gonna be the thumbnail right there.
But hold so I can get it. There we go. Yeah. This beer is crystal freaking clear. There's no haze to it. There's no burn. There's very little alcohol flavor to this at all. It's not as intense as a modern day hazy citrus, and it's leaning a little bit more into like a little bit of pineapple and honeydew melon more than it is like an orange or a mandarin or something like that. But yeah, that's the kind of beer this is. So
I was reading about it. The interesting thing, it's a double IPA but with German yeast. So it has a Kaiser German yeast strain, and I'm wondering if that's part of it. And it is have Mosaic and Simcoe in it. So
you just triggered the neuron in my brain that recognized the middle of that flavor.
Yeah.
You went, it's got a German yeast right as I'm like taking a swig, and I went, oh my God, that's what that is.
Yeah.
I will not say German and like Hefeweizen banana, but there's like this warmer ester like note just kind of in the middle of it, where it still leaves very dry and very crisp, and I really like it, but it's that little bit of note that balances it, so it's not just drinking pineapple juice. It kind of warms it up before it leaves.
It says it's a traditional Berliner Weiss style yeast strain. So it should a Kolsch. It would work very well with the Kolsch.
Oh yeah,
or an alt beer. So I was thinking like probably more like a Pilsner, and that would explain kind of that maltier side with the subdued esters.
A little Pilsner like on like body feel. Yeah. Good stuff.
I'm gonna go find that now.
Yeah,
that sounds pretty delicious.
Yeah, Rev's chiming in. Electric Surfboard's pretty good. Steve is actually the one that found this one first, and I grabbed a can the next week after the show. So he's had it. All right. Well, what do you say we get to some news? We'll start, I know, surprise, surprise, with actually one of our title stories. Last week I had a really good friend Jordan on the show, and I had like 6 news articles, and we didn't hit one. We talked about other things. We talked about other things that came up in conversation, but we never once hit one of our news stories. And Ian Cuttress was watching the show on repeat on Thursday and goes, "Did you guys ever talk about the AMD leaks?" And I went, "Nope, I just realized, no, we did not." And I put that in my title. So I changed the title to "We didn't talk about any news. It's Jordan's fault." Anyway, we're going to jump into Intel. There have been some rumors circulating for Intel graphics over the last week or so. I was one of the ones who broke maybe about 6 months ago, right around December time, that it sounded like Intel, outside of their enterprise markets, and really even including their enterprise markets, they were not going to end up releasing their big Battlemage GPU, their G32 based GPU. They were going to leave it at the the 18? The B580 and B570 GPU die. That's all they were going to release for Battlemage. They were waiting for Celestial to be done, because Celestial was ahead of track, and it didn't make sense to release Battlemage and then immediately supplant it with a much better architecture, which Celestial sounds like it's going to be good, like really good. But Battlemage, man, Intel has been apparently spamming social media. Oh, and by the way, we also covered last week that there might be a rumor that a B770 class card, so a top tier Intel card based on the big GPU, would actually be coming out. Since that show, Intel has been taking to social media and responding to people who are tweeting at them with, please, I need a B770 class card. Stay tuned. And stay tuned, and emoji eyes and clapping and things like that. There's some rumors that there might be actually some pretty substantial announcements from Intel at Computex, let alone for a B770, which is what they're kind of alluding to here on the socials.
These posts. Yeah.
The BG21 is the smaller die, and the BG31 is the bigger die. I thought it was 32 and 22, but no, 31, 21. Anyway, there's already been rumors that there's going to be an Arc Pro A60 with 24 gigs of VRAM, but that's based on, I believe, the G21 GPU die. Again, the B580 goes in line with things that I've heard out of Intel over the last 6 months or so. But we might get a Pro A60 with 24 gigs of VRAM, which would be great for people looking for an inexpensive card with a lot of VRAM for AI inference, local AI workloads, that kind of thing. Not necessarily training, but running local LLMs or small language models for production or internal use. There's been a rumor floating around that we're going to get a B580 with 24 gigs of RAM, which would be a consumer-based graphics card with more RAM than it knows what to do with. And I didn't really know what to think of that rumor when I first saw it. However, we've got an even weirder one now, with at least one board partner also working on a dual B580, a dual GPU graphics card with 12 and 12 for a total of 24 gigs. That, to me, actually makes a little bit more sense than a single 24 gig B580 for a couple of reasons. One is a use case that I like, which is virtualizing GPUs. Basically giving a server a physical GPU through PCI Express pass-through. If you put two of them on a PCI Express slot, you can pass through two 12 gig B580s. And while they're not the fastest consumer cards on the market today at $250 a piece or $300-ish at retail at the moment, they do a couple of things very well, including things like AV1 encode, which could be very beneficial for server workloads or virtualization workloads. Man, if they do a dual B580, do I need to get 4 of those and build a new cloud gaming server?
Well, that would only run you if potentially under $1,000?
No, these ones would be dual models, so I'd put the over under at maybe like 450 retail.
Yeah,
between 450 and 550, so less than $2,000 for essentially 8 graphics cards. do I water cool them and try to put 8 of them in a box?
That's if they come out.
For, or 6 of them in a box. So could I do 6 dual GPUs for a 12 GPU server? Like, I've got some questions. I'm going to find whoever this board partner is. I have meetings with all of them next week, and I'm going to demand answers. Intel sponsor, Sparkle sponsor. Can't share anything. But one of those things that you said, there is some movement in a GPU that a lot of us want made that no board partner thought about making, until a couple of us in the community spoke up, and the company went, "Wait, you would really buy that GPU in that form factor?" And oh yeah, 100 times over. And they went, "All right, tell you what if we made 1,000 of them? Like, do you think you could sell them?" And I went, "Yeah." Like, there's some things moving and shaking with people. Yeah, dual GPU, upcoming craft computing video, LOL. That goes in hand. Like, how many dual GPU? I think I counted at one point. I think I own something like 17 or 18 dual GPUs. I mean, for God's sakes, I've got a GTX 690 right over here. I've got a couple M40s over here on my workbench in front of me. Small form factor B770 confirmed. Hold up. Yeah. Logistics. You bite your tongue, sir. Gosh. Look, just because I'm finally a logistics company doesn't mean I also want to do logistics for other crap. I'm going to do logistics for other companies now, aren't I?
Yeah, probably.
Still skeptical given the lack of Flex GPUs in the wild. There's been a lack of Flex GPUs, even dating back to Alchemist. And I'm not overly surprised if Intel was leaning in December, canceling the B31 GPU die, or G31 GPU die, and then suddenly pivoting a couple of months ago, and then spinning up fab time with TSMC. Maybe they thought Intel Core Ultra was going to sell better than it did, and they have fab time and they don't want to make more CPUs. Tell you what, let's just spin up Battle Mage. It's sitting there, it's ready to go, and it's 4 nanometer. Like, let's just hit it. That is certainly a realistic possibility, is maybe they think they can sell more GPUs than they can CPUs based on their die size. So, yeah, there's a lot of things to think about. 2-slot ITX length. I will give a hint. Single slot. That's all I'm gonna say.
So?
I'm not gonna say what board partner. I'm not gonna say what GPU vendor. I'm just gonna say single slot.
Now, are they going to treat this rumor like all other Intel graphics cards, though? Is it actually going to come out? Is it actually going to do everything?
That's a great question. Given that this feels like a board partner taking a little bit of freedom through no restrictions of Intel on what to do with their cards, because the reason we stopped seeing cards like the Asus Mars, which was a dual GTX 560 Ti, dual $200 graphics cards on a single PCB, was NVIDIA got a little bit more restrictive on how you could actually implement their GPUs. They wanted board partners to have less control and do less crazy things, which I get from some standpoints, but in other circumstances, man, that's when we get some of the most fun things. That's when we get things like the 1070 Katana. You know, when engineers are allowed to go hog wild from other companies. That's when we get things like the Burinator. Like, we have these components to work with. What if we put them together this way to serve this function? You can come up with a lot more things other than triple slot gaming card if you put your mind to it. It seems Intel may not have those restrictions going when it comes to their GPU design, where Intel certainly has a reference design of, hey, here's the traces and here's how we recommend building it. But as long as you can make it work, go make it work. There is an interesting actual use case for the B580 being a dual GPU card, and it comes through a little program called lossless scaling. This has been getting a lot of circulation lately on some budget gaming forums. Let me pull it up real quick. So this started popping up about 10 months ago. Instead of using NVIDIA or FSR FrameGen, what you can do is you can run a main graphics card, like a big beefy graphics card, think like an RTX 3080 or something like that. Yeah. You can then run any compatible secondary card in your PC. Let's say the AMD RX 580 that you just replaced with the RTX 3080. So you've got this extra graphics card laying around, right? Useless.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Plug in your RTX 3080 into your top GPU slot on your gaming PC. Okay. Plug in your RX 580 into your secondary X8 slot. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't need a lot of bandwidth. Just has to be plugged in. And plug your monitor into your slower card. Follow me.
Okay.
Inside of Windows, you have the ability to tell Windows which GPU you want your game rendered with. So if I open an application, which card is outputting the video really doesn't matter. You can actually plug in your HDMI cable to your onboard graphics, like your motherboard onboard graphics, but still render with your NVIDIA or AMD graphics card. And just output that through the onboard graphics. It's more resource intensive, because now the onboard graphics is doing some work and there's a handoff between them, but the handoff is less than one frame. Transferring a frame buffer internally over PCI Express is minimal. There's not a lot of data going through there. So you plug your monitor into your RX 580. You tell Windows, whenever I have a graphically intensive title, I want you to render it with the RTX 3080. And we're going to output that through the RX 580. Your RX 580 sees this frame buffer coming through and goes, okay, well, I'm going to splice this out frame by frame, and I'm going to use the GPU power that I have on hand to do frame generation on top of that.
So you're doubling it.
Doubling, tripling, quadrupling.
Yeah.
Taking a 60 FPS 4K and turning it into a 240 hertz 4K with no hit to your main graphics card. It's still frame gen, but as long as you're over 60, latency's basically negligible outside of esports titles. And at esports titles, you're running 1080 low anyway, so who the hell cares? But let's say you want to run Cyberpunk and you want to game at 4K. Well, and you want to turn on full path tracing. Well, the RTX 3080 can do that at like 40, 45, 50 FPS most of the time. If you turn on frame gen, it dramatically increases latency on the NVIDIA card, and it's a good experience, but it's not perfect. However, you can take the 45 FPS that's being generated by your RTX 3080, feed it individual frames to your RX 580, and you have your RX 580 do frame generation for it, just based on the video output. And are there anomalies? Yes. Is there a slight hit to latency? Yes, maybe a frame. But your perceptual display goes up to 240 hertz. It's pretty great. That's actually one thing that I'm going to do with the really cheap X99 rig that I just built. I'm going to put a super cheap graphics card into that and see what I can do with it. And so have my RTX 3050 render the graphics, and then put in like an RX 6400, like $100 graphics card, and have that do frame generation for me, and see if I can double my frame rate for $100. And so get like the ultimate high refresh rate, but low dollar build.
So it says the Arc 580 does not support frame generation technology.
The Arc 580, the Intel Arc B580 doesn't support Intel frame gen. However, loss of scaling is not using Intel frame gen. It's using an implementation of FSR, which is open source. So it'll run it.
Cool. Now I just hope there's not, with the rumors of whatever the B770 or 780 or whatever.
Yeah.
770. Intel, the problem is like all these graphics cards sound cool, but the one thing that has plagued Intel recently with all of them is their drivers. Their drivers just seem to suck.
The drivers have gotten dramatically better over the last year and a half.
Have they?
Dramatically better.
I just remember talking on this show of like,
yeah,
the drivers suck. For Intel driver, we're like, okay, you guys are coming out with okay hardware. You're trying to be competitive, and we're always very super excited about all of their hardware.
Yeah.
And then it comes out, and then there's all these videos of like, this is great. And then 3 weeks later, it won't run this game, or it flakes out on this game, and I can't do this.
There is an issue with the B580, and I know Intel is aware of this because they have commented on it, that they are looking into sources and potential fixes. Of the B580 driver in particular being a little resource intensive for older CPU architectures. Whether that was a bug in implementation or whether that was an actual resource drain. I know they are actively looking into it. They have stated as much. I'm going to see if I can get an update. I do have a meeting with Intel sometime next week. You can tell I haven't ever done Computex before because I don't know how to build a calendar in another time zone yet. Like, I've never needed to do that. Like, Vegas is Pacific time, so it doesn't matter, you know, when I fly to Vegas. I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek. Of course, I've built out a schedule, but I couldn't tell you what times any of my meetings are. I just frankly don't know. But I know I do have a meeting with Intel at Computex about something. So if it's with their graphics team, I do want to ask them if there's any progress or updates, and maybe we can talk about it on the show next week. By the way, for those interested, Talking Heads will be broadcasting at its normal time next week. So 6 p.m. Pacific, Wednesday, next week. That is going to be a 9 a.m. Thursday show for me.
What are you drinking is what I want to know.
We're gonna have beers.
Breakfast stouts all day.
I will say I am staying in the Grand Hyatt next door to Taipei 101, and I have a 2-room suite with room service and everything else. So we will be getting beers to the show. Bloody Mary time? It might be Bloody Mary time. Yeah, I love that David and Skull both chimed in within 5 seconds of each other. Sounds Bloody like a good time for a Bloody Mary. You know, I may have to take that advice. Grand Hyatt is sick. Yeah, I was looking around at a number of different hotels, and then I'm like, you know what? I've always wanted to, like, I know we're going to be in Taipei 101 for at least part of the week. And then there's also the convention center, which is like a 15 or so minute walk down the road from Taipei 101. But it's like, I would love to just get to my hotel room, look out the window, and see Taipei 101. Like, that to me would tell me I'm in Taipei. And so that was a goal. And I'm staying literally next door to it. So that'll be fun. Is this the first Computex that you will be attending? Yes, this is my first Computex. We were slated to go in 2020. And then that didn't happen.
Obviously, no. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I went to CES 2020. It was my third CES. And at CES, I was talking to a number of vendors that I work with about potential sponsorships to go to Computex. And like, yeah, I'm on board. Like, yeah, let's make Computex happen. Let's do some fun content and whatnot. And had a number of them get back to me, and then I started getting emails about like, hey, we're gonna have to like put you on hold. Like, maybe we'll talk in a month or so. And then that month never happened. And what happened is Computex was canceled, and obviously we all went into lockdown for 2.5 years. So, and then since then, like, I've had a third child, and I've been very restrictive on travel, on where I go and things like that. Really until this last year. This last year is the first year I really got out. The first place that I went that was outside of my hometown here, I think I went to the coast once and like got a hotel room, and like the early winter of 23, like January, February of 23. I think that was the first time like I left my city. And then I went to LTX in Surrey, BC, in August of 23. And then a couple weeks after that, I went to 45 Drives. Still didn't go to CES that year. Still skipped a number of other shows. I think I attended an Intel event, but that was local. But then last year, yeah, I started opening up a little bit more. I went to AMD hosted their Accelerating AI event in San Francisco. I went again to 45 Drives. We went back to CES this last year. So yeah, just starting to broaden the portfolio a little bit more, and obviously this year we're going to Computex. So it'll be me and Rhett going to Computex. And John, maybe one of these days we'll have to peel you away for 12 days and get you over to Taipei.
Oh yeah, let me do that. Hey, you know what? That knowing my luck, that'll be the one time again you missed the flight.
That is true, because we were also supposed to go to DEF CON in 2023. And John and I straight up missed the plane.
Yep. Straight up missed.
Well, arguable. We should have made that plane.
There was no reason why we couldn't have made it, and other than she just didn't want to do her job.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it out there. She didn't want to do her job.
Yep. So I read the ticket wrong and thought it was a 145 or something like that takeoff. Ended up being a 105 takeoff. And we caught traffic on the way up. And so, but we still got there 45 minutes ahead.
We were
in line to get our boarding passes before they had even called for boarding. Like,
yep.
And at the time it was still the old PDX terminal. I can see the security line from the lady's window that I'm talking to. There's like 8 people there. Yeah.
No one there.
Right.
We
didn't have checked bags.
Yeah.
We were going for 3 days, and so it's like we each had a backpack. So we get to the check-in kiosk and type in our flights, and it says, please see help desk. And so we walked up to the desk and said, hey, we just got to see here, and said, what's your flight? And we gave her the flight number. She goes, you're not making that. And I went, you're joking, right? And she goes,
like
no.
45 minutes.
And I'm like, yeah, it's 35, 40 minutes before takeoff. And she goes, you'll never make it through security. I looked around her shoulder, and I came back and I went, you're joking, right?
Yeah.
She goes, nope. Can't do it. No one I can talk. Nope. All right.
Nope. Yeah. She was just, and it was like, what can we do?
Yep.
And then everyone else was busy. It was like, she's like, well, next. Yeah, doing it.
Yep.
And I was like, wait, what can we do?
Yeah.
And nothing. She wouldn't even offer us like, oh, or no, I think she did offer us like, oh, well, there's a flight tomorrow morning, first class. And it was like
$1,200 a seat.
Yeah, something along that line, just ridiculous. It was like,
which, by the way, this was an $89 ticket.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm like, just let us go through. If we miss the flight, we miss the flight. It's on us.
Yeah. And we didn't have any checked bags. Like, and that was the big thing. Like, I could understand if we were, wheeling up 2 suitcases each, and it's like, oh, are we in time? It's like, no, that conveyor belt doesn't even connect anymore. But it's it's me and John with backpacks.
With backpack, no, and it really was. It was like less than a dozen people at the security line, and I was like, okay, we're gonna. Even as we were pulling in from the bus that we had to take in, it was like, okay, we're just not gonna have time to have a beer.
Yeah,
we both sat there and thought we're just not gonna have time to have a beer. Yeah, because there's plenty of breweries and PDX. But yeah, even I thought like, what's the holdup? Why can't we do this? This is dumb. Yeah. And it was like, oh no, you missed the window by 10 minutes.
The one time I didn't check into a flight, as Sean says, this is why you check in hours beforehand to avoid the counter. Yeah, the one time I didn't check into my flight 6 or 8 or 12 or 24 hours before, because I'm always that guy. I'm always the guy that checks in, oh, you can check in now. Like, it's still Tuesday. You don't leave till Wednesday. Yeah, I know. Now I have my boarding pass. Cool. The one time I didn't do that is the one time I got burned. And, so instead of having a live show from Abel Baker on the Vegas Strip, we had a live show from Level Brewing in Portland, which was still a great show. That was fun.
It was good. It was fun. But we had free sample trays, free T-shirts.
Yeah, they were getting a swag, flights, everything.
Everything. Just be like, oh yeah, just stream from our area and tell us you're there. Like, sweet.
Tell people you're at Abel Baker. Yeah, I was so upset.
I know.
Colton checking in, Hardware Haven. Good to see you. How you doing, sir? I'm getting stressed out just listening to this. Yeah, I wasn't happy about the situation. That's for sure. Anyway, we've got more news to get to. Gentlemen, if ever there was a moment to go full Karen, no, the moment to go full Karen is not at a federal airport.
Yes, that was the one part I appreciated, not getting searched.
Yeah. I need to be on the fly list. I need to not be on the no-fly list. Yeah, so...
and really, it was an event that was more just like, okay, this is just going to be fun.
We were literally just going to show up. I had some friends that I was going to hook up with. And like, people that I had... And again, this was like the first thing that I was flying to after COVID. And I had met so many amazing people online through various communities that I was going to go hang out with and whatnot. And I was more bummed out that I was letting a couple of people down than not being able to go to Vegas. Like, I've been to Vegas. You haven't been to Vegas. So,
no.
John, we're going to go to DEF CON this year. You and I.
We'll go. All right.
John, we're going to DEF CON this year.
All right. It's August 7th through the 10th. It's actually a weekend.
I can make that happen.
I could too, actually.
Put it in your calendar.
All right.
Put it in your We're going to go to DEF CON this weekend.
Sure,
let's go Thursday through Sunday. Let's head. Right, let's get in like early morning Thursday. Let's have a couple of days just to piss around, do whatever.
All right.
Hell, we could even. Why don't we go Wednesday? Let's do the show from Abel Baker like we were freaking going to in the first place. We've got Thursday to piss around, and then we've got Friday, Saturday at DEF CON.
All right. I mean, Sure. Sure.
And we can be back like early Sunday morning.
All right.
How's
Okay.
that?
I mean, that I could probably
We'll take a
better.
super early flight Wednesday. It's
Okay.
like a 2-hour flight. It's nothing.
Yeah, no, it's nothing.
We'll fly in Vegas early Wednesday. I'll walk the strip with you. We'll get the lay of the land. We'll do the show from Abel Baker on Wednesday night. On what is that, the 5th or 6th of August?
The 6th, yeah.
Yeah. Thursday we can go do whatever. We can go do sightseeing stuff. We can whatever.
Whatever. More drinking.
And then DEF CON, we're Friday, Saturday. And then we catch like a 7 a.m. flight coming back home on Sunday morning.
All right. Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Book it.
I got vacation time I've never used in 4 years. So it's built up.
Excellent. Colton says, enjoying a beer myself and finally catching a stream for the live stream for the first time in a long time. So doing well. Excellent. That's great to hear. Your channel's been blowing up lately. Holy crap, dude. Like, I've been meaning to like try to like connect with you in some way and chat a little bit. Man, you've been putting out some dynamite videos, dude. So congrats though. Yeah. Cheers to you. Seriously. Uber Sprite says he'll meet us there. Long time, we call him the podcast monkey over on the Discord, but Funky Monk usually attends. So we'll get Funky Monk. There's a number of people that I've threatened meeting so many times. Deviant Olaf, I think we need to make that beer connection finally happen. Little beer, little whiskey, get it all mixed together.
Let's do it.
Yeah, there's so many people that attend DEF CON that I just need to sit down and have a drink with, like, seriously. So yeah. I'll be your Uber, pun intended. Yeah, man, thanks. Let's catch up sometime. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. You about done with yours?
I literally just polishing up, so if you want to introduce yours.
Oh my gosh, mine was horrible. That was horrible. All right, because it was so bad, I have to go back to something classic. Something classic. And that is, when I mean classic, I'm talking 90s classic. And this is Arrogant Bastard Ale. So nice Arrogant Bastard.
Oh, classic.
Classic Imperial Marzen Ale, I believe.
The last Arrogant Bastard on this show, besides Bite My Bits, was actually Bite My Bits drinking an Arrogant Bastard.
Oh yeah, in Vegas?
In Vegas, yes. Yeah, the Vegas show in 2020. That was the first beer that Steve and I made Jason open, because it wasn't a Bud Light.
Yeah, or Bud Light Orange.
Exactly. Yeah, Bud Light Orange. Oh god. Cool. Well, I'm gonna grab my second beer. One sec here.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Actually, if people don't know, Arrogant Bastard Ale is theoretically, technically, no longer Stone. There are, I believe it's like Arrogant Bastard Brewery, again, subsidiary of Stone. But the reason they did that is to allow the Bastard Ale, their most popular beer, to be brewed outside of Stone Brewing. So technically it's not Stone, but it's Stone.
Yes. I've got another Oregon beer for tonight. I've got a Deschutes Brewing. This one I know you've had before. I don't know if you've had this year's Symphonic Chronic.
I have. I had that.
Excellent.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's another one of those, the big tall boys that are coming in at 9%.
That's right. Yep. So I had grabbed my couple of 4-packs, and then I'm like, you know what? That one looks really, really good. So we're gonna grab that. So it's the Pineapple Express Symphonic Chronic from Deschutes Brewing, double hazy. Which in years past, this has been just a straight double IPA. Now it's actually a hazy IPA. So that's actually what made me snag it. Was I'm curious. I'm curious exactly what they did with it.
So, it's not bad, but I did find a better beer that's cheaper than that.
Ooh.
And I think I don't think Steve's in the chat, but I think he will agree. And I'm thinking it's going to be my next video because I'm going to make it a quick one. It is, and it's also extremely cheap. Let me go look it up.
While you're looking that up, my favorite bomber beer that you can get, usually for about $2.50 or $3, is Hop Valley's Cryo Stash.
Oh, very good.
That is usually I'm at 7-Eleven. I don't have an IPA at home. That sounds amazing. It's $3.29. It's 19 ounces. Yep. It's 9.5%. It gets the job done.
All right, so there it is.
So.
It is it actually doesn't get that good of a rating, but it should. It is, ready for this? Red Hook's Big Ballard Tropical Juicy IPA. It comes in at, which is actually interesting. It says 7.2, but I'm almost positive the new one is a 9%. Yeah.
7.2 is what it says.
I'm almost positive it's a 9%, but it could be. But that is pretty darn tasty.
Really? I usually avoid
tasty.
Red Hook.
Yeah, I know.
Because,
same.
Yeah.
Yep, same. It is. I had a barbecue this past weekend.
Okay.
I had Jason. I had Steve. I had my brother Mike, who doesn't even like IPAs.
Yeah. Oh, Mike was in town?
Like this.
What the heck?
Yeah.
What the heck?
Like
you don't call me?
I did. You were invited, if you remember the text message.
Oh, crap. In my defense, I got a lot going on right now.
I don't blame everyone. I understand. It was like, I don't care, whatever. Well,
then I apologize.
But no, it was so. The reason I got it, yeah. Now you feel bad.
Now I feel like an ass.
The reason I got it because it was, I'm having a barbecue. I want some cheap beers, and Red Hook has an 18-pack for $20. I was like, all right, well, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm just people are coming over.
That's basically pub beer prices.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then we had that. But it came with that one in the variety pack.
Ooh.
And it was like, this is really good. We drank all of them that day. And it was like, these are really good. It's up there. I would say it's probably up there with maybe even just below or equivalent to the Voodoo Ranger lineup.
Oh, really? Like the tropical juice?
The tropical juices. Yep.
Okay.
It's as far, it's not high ABV,
right?
And that might be why it's good, because they didn't push the ABV there.
Right.
I thought it was 9%, but
no, 7.2.
It's that but it's that juicy and smooth.
Interesting.
And I did see it the Monday. They do make it in the 19-ounce cans.
Okay.
So if you see it, pick it up. I have one less can. And I think I'm going to do a video on it and try to release it as the surprising cheap beer that I.
Yeah, because I normally avoid Red Hook because.
It's cheap and it's not good.
Right. Yeah, lots of reasons I avoid Red Hook, but you've sold me. Next time I'm there, I'm gonna pick up a bomber or a Red Hook.
It's worth a try, and again, again, it's not the greatest IPA you're ever going to have, but if you take the price into consideration of you're paying 250, 275 for a 19-ounce bomber,
Yeah.
and it's 7.2%, you're like, this is pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a 12 pack of this is probably going to run you $18.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. You're like, okay, I could drink this. This is fine. It's very sweet, very malt forward, has a very medium to chewy body to it. So you're like, okay, it's a juicy hazy. I get it. It totally works.
So not to completely derail the conversation, we're going to stick with beer for a second, and then we're going to move on. I do want to talk SteamOS. That's coming up in a second. We'll get to that momentarily. Look, I understand the 420 themed beers. Leaning into the dankness.
Yep.
I've had Waldo's dozens of times over the years. I've had Dank Dust. I've had I mean, heck, even Sticky Hands and beers like that. Hold on one sec.
Okay. Oh, clearing the palate.
No, comparing the palate.
I thought that was like a bag of coffee.
No.
It's a bag of Kush.
Holy crap. That is the most flower accurate aroma on a beer I've ever smelled.
What about the Elysian? Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that's the Dank Dust.
The Dank Dust.
Yeah. This is stronger.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
It's very close. I threw Dank Dust in there. And I think last time I had Dank Dust, I did that same smell comparison because it's that close.
Oh, yeah, I know. Steve. So I have a 6-pack still of like 2014s.
Yeah.
Or 24s. And Steve accidentally opened one night coming over and me like, oh, I want an IPA. I was like, I don't have any. So he thought it was space dust. And it's like, yeah. What are you doing? He opened it. It's pretty powerful. I don't,
I was pouring this, and as soon as I'm holding it above my nose for the camera, and I'm getting it, and that's all right. I'm getting. And I will say, hold on. The flavor is quite different. And I get why they call it hazy, even though it's like mildly hazy at best.
Unfiltered.
Yeah, it's unfiltered. It's not hazy. And it's not that giant citrus bomb that we talked about early in the show. It doesn't have like that pineapple and passion fruit and star fruit and guava and mango and mandarin orange. It doesn't like, it's not like this giant intense nectar fruit punch. It's a nice, playful yet thick-bodied beer is how I would put it. But oh my god, that smell.
It's been a while. I don't think I've had it in about 2 months, and I think I had it on draft. So it's a little bit different on draft than fresh can.
Yeah.
You're going through lines and whatnot. So I will have to pick one up and check that out.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pineapple, you said?
Pineapple Express Chronic, Symphonic Chronic.
Okay, so I know I've had it because I checked it in.
The pineapple on this one is late. It is normally any pineapple in beer is immediate and then is immediately washed over with other flavors. And that's exactly what I talked about with the electric surfboard. This is also like a pineapple forward citrusy kind of beer. Symphonic Chronic, the pineapple is like the ending note. Which is weird. Like it's more like a mild melon and guava, like yeah.
Like I checked this in when it was still in its pilot series in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last time I checked it. I remember it. Okay, because yeah, no, I don't think I've ever had that. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Huh. Yeah, I will check the
Yeah.
pineapple one out.
I would snag one.
All right.
Yeah. If just for the aroma alone. Like this is an easy like 8-minute video for you. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's a good one. Crack open, pour the beer, do the review. It writes itself. It's one of those.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It says okay. I had the pineapple one. It said April, but so it's been a bit. But I remember it being at like a bar.
Mhm.
So I was just like, I'm drinking it, whatever. I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah.
Deschutes. That's all. I just saw Deschutes 9%, so I just grabbed it.
Yeah.
And again, the knowing the bars around my work, I don't think they clean their lines.
Probably not. I know the
So,
area.
yeah. So,
Green sends over $10 super chat. Hardware Haven recently reviewed a Chrome box with a USB-C display alt port. Any chance that it will run off USB-C power bank, maybe glasses, wireless peripherals, and AR glasses? I didn't see that video, but thank you for the super chat. I did see that he posted it. I hadn't clicked on it yet. But I
see him in the chat.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. But typically, devices that support full USB-C DisplayPort alt mode also will support power input. They're technically two different specs, but I have not seen one exist without the other. As far as wireless peripherals, I don't know. Sorry, one sec. Look something up real quick. There it is. Cool. Nope. Other one. There it is. Okay, cool. Yeah, I haven't seen that protocol exist only DisplayPort alt mode, but not power input, or supports power input, but not. I've seen supporting power input, but not DisplayPort alt mode that doesn't support power input. So as far as wireless, no idea, but if it supports DisplayPort alt mode, that is the mode that AR glasses run on, and they only require DisplayPort 1.2. There hasn't been a PC built in the last 12 years that doesn't support DisplayPort 1.4. So I can't imagine modern AR glasses not working. X-Real, Rocket, TCL, etc. So.
Oh, I need to make a correction to my. It is the Big Ballard Juicy, and it is 9.5.
Okay.
By the way.
That's what I showed. Big Ballard Juicy IPA.
No. That's Tropical Juicy.
Oh, that's Tropical Juicy. Okay.
No, it looks very similar. I know. I just looked it up. I was like, oh, there is. Yeah, there's Tropical and there's Juicy.
9.5.
Yeah, that one. That's the one. Really good. And I actually kind of now want to look it up. See what it gets.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway, sorry to get off.
No. That's what we're here for. Cool. Rev was going to say Tropical Juicy has a farty taste. So yeah, the Big Ballard Imperial Juicy IPA, 9.5. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll look for this one.
Yes, look for that one. That's the one you want to look.
Which is actually bigger than the Voodoo Ranger?
Same. All of them are The Juicies, the Tropic Forces, are 9.5.
Okay.
They're all 9.5.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. That's what intrigued me about this, because they're all going for that big, that whole juiciness and natural flavor with a lot of alcohol. It's like, okay, they're doing something.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to the video.
Anyway, speaking of weird and esoteric hardware to plug weird things into, SteamOS, Valve, posted a new page to their community forums that has me especially interested. So if some of you remember, back at CES, Valve actually made an announcement in conjunction with Lenovo that SteamOS was coming to the Lenovo Legion Go. And I was one of the first people to get hands-on with it. We talked about it on our show at CES, and what we thought it meant for handheld gaming. And I know myself and a number of the other handheld YouTubers, your ETA Primes and Retro Game Core, super excited. Also, Linus Tech, Linus himself has posted a number of comments about SteamOS being the first legitimate competitor to Windows' monopoly over the PC gaming space. And it's proven itself to be more than capable. And all it needs is adoption and users. Like, seriously, at this point, all it needs is users. All it needs is people. The hard work is already done. Now we just need to get people to start using it. But Valve themselves have been a little mum on compatibility of SteamOS outside of either the Steam Deck or pre-approved devices like the Lenovo Legion Go. And then they go and post something like this to their main forums, which is SteamOS Compatibility Rankings. Similar to the does it run on Steam Deck or not ratings that games are given, it supports the control schemes. You don't have to use an on-screen keyboard. It'll run with no compatibility issues. It is fast enough to run on Steam Deck hardware. Things like that. Like, those are all criteria that go into rating games, whether or not they are certified or good on deck. Great on deck, as Valve themselves puts it. They are taking a similar rating system and adding third-party hardware for SteamOS, which means, from the sound of it, not only will we be getting approved hardware vendors to run SteamOS, we might be getting generic SteamOS installs. So successfully run SteamOS. This game's first-time setup requires an active internet connection. This game's launcher setup tool may require touchscreen or mouse input. Your experience in terms of performance and input may vary depending on your hardware. There's a whole new section relating to SteamOS compatibility in regards to hardware.
They're thinking initially like 1800. As soon as this launches, right away, because there's already so many stuff that's Steam compatible. But we're looking at like 1800 titles, plus stuff. So it's pretty cool. My only thought of this was I do like SteamOS because of the whole handheld device, and majority of those games are going to be run off of Steam or some kind of operating system, but Steam is the #1 king of them all. However, the handheld system to me has always been kind of an odd thing because it's a premium item. Those nicer handheld ones. And the reason I thought they were always worth it was for the option to dock it, and you still have a personal laptop, a personal PC, where you could run your Windows titles, your whatever other titles, which Steam doesn't technically because it's Linux based. There are compatible items, but still it's not a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, the adoption of it, if you adopt it more, similar say to the Linux community, I almost wonder if this is Linux big jumping off point of like, look, everyone games on this. This is Linux based. Push this. The biggest push for Linux, because what is everyone's biggest thing about Linux is it doesn't run games. This is it's Linux based in the back end.
That hasn't been true for 6 years. Linux runs games now.
It does.
In some cases, better than Windows.
It's the perceptive it's the perception
totally
is what I mean.
Yeah.
It almost takes a whole generation. So
sorry, I all of a sudden got like Linux fanboy defensive.
I know.
What are you talking about? Jeff, Linux doesn't run games, John.
Well, I was like, Jeff, you are out of your like. Whoa, back off, man.
Sorry.
I thought we were on craft computing.
It does
here.
Weird things to me.
But no, I think because Steam already has a very, very large backing behind it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is I think you could get this if this becomes the new handheld norm for all
Sorry, this isn't just like the Linux point. This is also, Eric wanted to know what keyboard I use. And so it's the KZZI. It's a 78%, so it's a 10 keyless, but it still retains the home keys on the side in my favorite layout. And full-size arrow keys in a usable layout.
With the roller.
Yeah, actually that's the settings toggle for USB or RF or Bluetooth. It'll do all three.
I got.
It's also USB-C with a hub on the back, so I can plug my mouse directly into it, which is freaking
That's
amazing.
cool. That's very helpful.
Yeah, it's a great keyboard. I love this thing. I'll see if I can drop a link for it.
I thought that was like a roller to scroll.
That is my one thing that I really prefer is a rocker for volume. And this one does not have a roller for volume.
Yeah.
But no, give me a second and I'll drop a link in the description for the keyboard.
But what I was kind of going on my little tyrant of rant, it was just I think Steam has a big enough following on PCs for gaming community to where if the premium handheld devices, which so many more are coming out right now, and a lot of them are fantastic and becoming more and more budget friendly for people to want to take PC gaming on the go. And most of those PC games are available on Steam. That's the thing. And so with this OS system, if somehow Steam can push this to be like, this is the operating system for all handheld devices, and then they become dockable, that's going to push the whole Linux community and Steam OS into, I think, the third most competitive, most competitive OS system out there, that they might even come out with like gaming laptops for SteamOS. I could see that happening in a few years.
You're not wrong. So on a lot of the handhelds that I've been reviewing, as of late, I have been making sure to also test Linux compatibility. This is going back about a year and a half or so. And lately my distro of choice has been Bazzite. And I did a full dedicated video on Bazzite, and then I've also, on a couple of recent handheld reviews, I have stated I've also tested this on Bazzite, and it works or it doesn't. So my 1X Fly F1 Pro Ryzen HX 370 with an 890M graphics Freaking beast of a mobile CPU. Runs Bazite, runs it flawlessly. I have been gaming on that thing month and a half, 2 months. Running the Oblivion Remaster and GTA 5 Advanced. Playing some Rocket League on it. Doing a number of other games. Right now, I'm playing a game that I always wanted to play and never had the excuse or opportunity to go through, and that is Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is an Ubisoft Breath of the Wild clone. It's Breath of the Wild and everything but name and story.
I heard about it. Yeah.
So far, I put 6 hours into that in the last 4 days or so. Just sitting on the side of my desk. Oh, I'm waiting for this thing to install. Cool. I'll fire this up for 20 minutes and playing it. And then an hour before I go to bed, and then an hour when I wake up. And just jamming on this thing. And 6 hours into it, loving the game. But all I did to play it on Bazite on my 1X Fly was install Bazite and then install the game. And everything works. And my brightness settings, my sound settings, all of my control schemes, my hotkeys, my TDP adjustments, everything just works. And it works great. And look, I have been a handheld PC gamer for longer than any of you can fathom. Jordan and I covered on the show last week, going back to the Samsung Q, and HP Transmeta Crusoe tablets and crap like that. Of my roots in Windows handheld gaming. And let me tell you, Bazite, it consoleizes, and to a greater extent, SteamOS consoleizes the experience. It makes it plug and play and easy to simply turn on and run game. There's no Windows crap. There's no Copilot. There's no recommendations for OneDrive. There's no clicking on a link and it opens Edge and then you have to go through the Edge one-time startup. There's no random Windows updates. There's no processes running in the background. It's an OS that's more reminiscent of a Nintendo Switch than a Windows desktop. And that's a really, really good thing when you're talking about a gaming device. The problem with Windows is it's Windows. And look, I tried Linux. I've tried Linux multiple times over the years. I tried Linux as recently as about 1.5 years ago as a daily driver OS. And I still went back to Windows because I still had issues. Whether it was with Linux itself or whether with software compatibility with Linux or workflow issues with Linux. And I wasn't even trying to use Linux as a Windows machine. I was trying to simply execute my workflow. I run a podcast and I need to show multiple windows, and OBS within Linux needs to be able to do that. And Linux sucked at it. I need to be able to run editing software and view my waveforms for editing audio. And that didn't work in Linux in DaVinci Resolve. I wasn't asking much. I was just asking for the basic features to work. And the basic features were still broken at some pretty fundamental levels.
Yeah.
Window management. I figured out window management. I figured out how to, I work with Mac OS daily as well, for God's sakes. It's I'm not foreign to other forms of operation. But when it came to daily driving Linux, I found it costing me more time than it was saving. I don't have to deal with a random 20-minute Windows update, but I do have to transcode all of my audio before I start editing a video, which costs me 20 minutes before every video edit. So I was trading one inconvenience for another, not solving my inconveniences. And that's the crux. And that's the part that the Linux fanboys missed, and the Windows fanboys missed, for that matter, which is always fun. You just used the wrong software. Yeah. What's really funny is Radal and I put out, unbeknownst to each other, Linux 30-day challenge videos within 7 days of each other. And then it turns out that 45 Drives, the Creator Summit last year, was talking about de-Windowsizing your client's workflows, or your workflow. And so Brett and I got to go through some very poignant, very recent, very fresh wound kind of things related to running Windows or not running Windows. So that was super interesting to walk through and see someone else's experience, also as a content creator, also with, very specific software requirements that the Windows fanboys will go, oh, it just works now. And you're like, no, actually it doesn't. And they're like, well, you're just using it wrong. No, actually I wasn't. So yeah, that was always fun. But gaming. Linux is doing gaming right. And that is all. I want to give Valve the utmost credit in the way that they've done this. For those who have been a fan of my channel for a very long time, I have done multiple walkthroughs of SteamOS, both the history of SteamOS and the current standing of SteamOS as it exists, dating back to 2018, before Proton and all this other compatibility layer stuff existed. And talking about like the promised land that could have been with SteamOS had it gotten just a little bit more refined or just a little bit better compatibility. Like, man, Valve was really onto something in the way that they were thinking about this. And then less than 12 months later, all of a sudden there's this massive explosion in compatibility because of Wine and Proton and SteamPlay integrations in particular. As we find out later, this was all because Valve was paying developers to increase the compatibility with things like Wine and DXVK and translation layers and different APIs and everything else, and simply getting everything to a workable state. And then simply open sourcing it. Just applying it to the main repos. Like, not even holding on to it themselves, just going, yeah, this is best for Linux gaming if everyone had access to Proton. And because of those developments, now, we didn't know it at the time, but there was rumblings at the time that Valve developers were directly involved in a lot of the submissions that had been made to things like DXVK and Wine, that had made Windows compatibility go from like 5% to something like 75%. Or as I tested it in 2019, 19 out of the 20 games that I played well with very little issues. And then Valve a couple of years later launches the Steam Deck, and with it SteamOS. And so I reviewed SteamOS, and I went, holy crap, if you're talking about a handheld gaming PC, this is the experience that you want. You don't want to deal with Windows drivers and turning off services and optimizing for mobile and how do you type and what's the interface like and did certain companies do certain things the right or the wrong way, and is OneDrive going to pop up in the middle? Am I going to get a random? No, what I want it to be is exactly what Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo all do fantastically well. That is, if you want to play a game, put the disc in or download the game and play the fucking game. That's it. That's all I want to worry about. On my handheld gaming PC, whose sole purpose is to play games in my hand, that's all I want to do. And SteamOS does that.
No, yeah. I mean, you're not wrong in the sense of I want plug and play,
Mhm.
and it's definitely seeming that SteamOS and Linux, but more so the SteamOS side, because obviously Steam game based, whatever, they're very focused on that, is becoming more of a plug and play. Let's make all the drivers possible. I mean, the problem. I think anyone with a slight computer background will sit there saying Linux and they saying sudo whatever blah blah blah. I gotta install this driver. I gotta install this to make it compatible. Steam is trying. I know they're Linux backed, but they're trying to make themselves essentially their own thing, to where Linux in itself is. I mean, Windows has Linux in it now, so people need to get past that, and I think a few years from now that'll go away. Um, but I do think Linux as being a very open sourced style OS system, and the developers of Steam have and the people around that have pushed a lot of what you were saying of the gaming industry around it. Um, I think this is going to work, and that's what I was saying. I think it could become the new, if they really tried and they did the marketing right, and I I guess didn't charge,
Mhm.
for their operating system, be like, oh, we're licensing it to all the other third-party handheld devices, of like, we're just giving it to you. If
Yeah.
they did something like that, it could be the number 3 operating system in the world, and eventually can compete and have good gaming laptops and everything. That's what I was saying. Like, it, because you want your hardware specifically just meant for gaming, designed for gaming, and gamers would go to that because it is, like you said, plug and play. I download my game, it's from Steam. I'm a competitive person. Boom, that's how it is, and it works great with my hardware, and I don't have to worry about bloatware or anything else of either an Apple or a Windows, mostly Windows.
Yeah.
But
This is interesting.
yeah. Okay.
Based on that, like we have some other news to cover. We're gonna have to like rapid fire some of the rest of this because there is some fun stuff, including Goose Island.
We do have actual pretty cool beer news.
Actual really cool beer news that I'm really excited for. So I looked up number of Linux client installs. So not server, but Linux desktop installs. Linux is, and these numbers are very wide, somewhere between 1 and 2.7% of all desktop computers. Roughly translated, it says about 4 million devices. Additionally, Linux user statistics include 32.8 million users and about 1.6 billion Android devices, which 1.6 billion Android devices I absolutely buy on the face of it alone. Android is the predominant smartphone OS, something like 70-30 against iOS. And so that kind of tracks. But 4 million devices, or 2.68% of, let's say, 2 billion desktop and laptop PCs. So let's take the high number. So 2 billion times 0.023 or 268. 53 million total Linux installs worldwide if we take like 2 billion client PCs, which still might be a little tall. There's only 8 billion people. That's one PC for every 4 people, and I think that's very high. But at the very high end, of estimates, 53.6 million Linux client installs.
Okay.
The PlayStation 2 sold 160 million units.
But again,
So
it's
if we
a
want
name
to,
brand.
so speaking to your point of like popularity of an OS,
Yes.
Windows by far number one. Probably the PlayStation 2 OS number two, followed by Xbox 360, followed by PlayStation 4, 5, followed by Xbox One, followed by Mac OS, followed by Linux. Like in that descending order.
Yeah, but I think it comes back to the high-end consumer of these handhelds.
Yeah.
It's a premium item. Okay. But prices of them are coming down.
Yes.
And the cool usage of them, I don't know. I think if SteamOS can basically kind of shove themselves into, hey, it's either free or a cheap license that everyone can use so that way we can be uniformed, and then go into a laptop form, which would then probably get the pro end gaming community behind them.
Mm-hmm.
I bet they would have a pretty good chance. And that's like a 10-year plan, right? On what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 15-year, but they probably would have a pretty decent shot at becoming top 5, top 4.
Yeah.
Again, I'm most any Xbox user, that's Windows. We all know that's just a Windows OS.
Yeah.
So whatever. PlayStation, I actually have no idea what a PlayStation OS system. What is that, Linux? I have no idea what that actually is.
PlayStation, I know PlayStation 3 is a form of BSD, which is similar based to Mac OS.
Free BSD.
Free BSD.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Orbis OS. Yeah. Orbis is what says PlayStation 5 is based off of an enhanced version of Orbis OS. But that's the only reason that's the highest operation is because most people buy PlayStations for home gaming system. But I've always said I really enjoyed the concept of the Switch, and I thought that was a very brilliant design of gaming on the go. And if you could ever somehow translate that and a personal computer that can do some form of your day-to-day web browsing, school homework, Word-esque style, Excel, those basic type things. And if SteamOS, because it's Linux-based, has most of that stuff already inside of it, and it can do that, and you dock it, and then therefore you just have a keyboard and mouse, whether you're on your couch or dorm room or whatever, and you could write your thesis paper on your whatever deck you're using, and still then pick it up and go gaming for $300 to $400.
Yeah.
I think I really truly think there's a huge market potential there, versus the big gaming rigs that we all have. I mean, how many gamers are perfectly happy with 60 frames per second, even 120 frames per second, with a lot of these, if a good docking station can do now with the modern hardware? We're all perfectly fine doing that type of stuff and not doing competitive gaming. We just want to have fun and game. For $400, you get a gaming system. You want to go on the go, you can go on the go. If you hook up a Bluetooth, I mean, with the screen sizes of some of these do, 8, 9-inch screens on some, that's still technical. And if they had I
will say they're a bit obscene at that size. I've got a couple of those. I don't like them.
I think there's some hardware issues.
Somewhere between 5.5 and 7 inches is basically what I think is the upper threshold for being a comfortable device to hold.
Okay.
I'm looking at it right now from across the room. The Aya Neo Kun, which is up until recently was like the fastest gaming handheld on the market and offered even more hardware input options than the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
And is my least favorite handheld I've ever used.
I'll take it.
It is
Thanks,
horribly uncomfortable. Quite honestly,
8.4.
like, look, I don't sell anything that's ever given to me for review, but if you want it,
I'm not denying it.
I
So yeah. So yeah, it's 8. So I'm looking at it. It's 8.4 inches.
yeah.
Versus the Steam Deck is 7. So it's basically an inch and a half bigger. That's huge. It's wider, it's thicker. And they can even compare it to the ROG Ally, which is way smaller than the Steam Deck. At least the Steam Deck looks way smaller than the Steam Deck. Yeah, yeah.
I can barely palm it vertically.
I get it. Now, is there a stand? Is there a stand on the back though?
There is a kickstand.
Okay. Wow, that is whoa. That's nothing. That thing's gonna break.
It's actually a quite resilient stand. Like,
really?
Yeah, it's a good quality stand. I like it.
Okay, but because it looks for the size.
Yeah,
I would expect the whole sleeve, type of a thing.
This thing is ginormous.
My point I was trying to make though is, like, if you had that, you could theoretically hook up a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard and do homework on the go.
This is a Zen 4 8-core 16-thread with a Radeon 780M graphics, TDP up to 58 watts. With a 2560 by 1600 resolution 8.4 inch display.
Oh yeah.
It's mental, the hardware that's packed inside of here.
Oh, exactly. But I guess that's my point, is that it's so big, it's so powerful.
Stuff like this Sprite says, and you have hands. I have hands. I've got mitts. I'm 6'4", motherfuckers. And this thing is too big for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay. What I'm seeing though, or what I'm envisioning, is 10 years down the line, and it's slowly going that way. This will probably either shrink down, probably not in size, but weight, which would probably help with the feeling of it.
Yeah.
Again, though, I think there could be, if you push hard enough, in 10 years from now, these handheld supercomputer, or they're not technically super, they're pretty close, but gaming computers.
Yeah.
Running SteamOS, and if SteamOS just slightly adapted their Linux base to be having some form of office-based, I need to be able to browse the internet, standard use. If they introduce that in 4 to 5 years, and then introduce laptops in 10 years, they could take over the gaming market as far as laptop and portable gaming devices, and have SteamOS be probably number 2 in portable gaming compute devices. To where they would probably be half of what most major competitors use in major, esports type things. I think that could be the realm that they go in, and I think because SteamOS probably has the backing to do it.
Yeah.
Again, that's kind of been my whole point. I think if they do it right, if they play their cards right, they could do the correct thing, because SteamOS uses a lot less power and can utilize better hardware performance versus Windows, which you have to tweak to be the at most professional level. That's kind of my point.
And Windows comes with everything else that they want Windows to run. It is a multifunction OS at its core.
Yes.
They have gone to a freemium type model where they want to jam Copilot and Office 365 and all of these ancillary services that have nothing to do with the core experience of gaming into your OS, which I even have qualms with on the desktop, but on the desktop I'll go, okay, fine. Like, you want me to use first-party things, I get that. Even my MacBook will recommend that I sign up for iCloud and get backup and make sure I have all that stuff enabled. Like, sure. You know, the messages and FaceTime app appear on my MacBook by default. Like, I don't use them, but I can easily turn them off. I have no qualms on the desktop or laptop side of things, but when it comes to like more bespoke hardware, if I was running a smartphone that ran Windows Desktop at its core, do you understand how frustrating that experience would be? Cool. If I was running a PlayStation game console that ran Windows at its core, do you understand how frustrating that experience would be? Cool. Then you understand why bespoke hardware operating systems need to strip away all of the ancillary crap.
Yep. You know what would be cool to see on Steam or even like a big handheld?
What's that?
Mario Kart. I'd love to see Mario Kart, like a really fun, and then they do some cool like new ports and some sweet new levels or some sweet new tricks or something else, because the third-party community is out there and they love doing that stuff like that, and I think that would be pretty awesome.
That would be. Do you know I have great news for you?
Really?
I do. So we talked about a month ago about kind of a breakthrough when it comes to not just emulation, but taking a Nintendo 64 game and fully decompiling it so you can port it over to another operating system and make it run with other operating systems, or maybe start implementing modern features. And wouldn't you know it, like 2 weeks ago, Diddy Kong Racing was fully decompiled. And now
I hated Diddy Kong Racing.
I love Diddy Kong Racing. You bite your tongue, sir.
It was horrible.
I love Diddy Kong Racing. How dare you?
It was, the controls were horrible.
Just because you can't pilot a hovercraft isn't my fault.
It was the hovercraft and the airplanes. Honestly,
I was fine because with the airplanes.
I rocked at Mario Kart, and I was like, everything. I don't want to fight my friends on this. I basically didn't want to do battle mode on Diddy Kong.
Because your friends were better than you at Diddy Kong, you make that my problem?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's cool. That's exactly what it
making sure we're on the right page here. 2 weeks ago, Diddy Kong Racing for the Nintendo 64 reached 100% full decompilation, which means its code base has been translated into essentially C++, ripe for being able to port it over to other operating systems and create your own executables. Wouldn't you know it that this morning, Mario Kart 64 reached the same status of 100% decompilation. Now, a lot of this recent progress in N64 Decomps has come on the heels of, like I said, a breakthrough in how the N64 hardware functioned at a machine level, at a machine language level, that gave us a better understanding of how the code was executed, which means it's easier for us to take machine code from the N64 and translate it into more readable languages like C++. And a lot of decompers have been using this new method to some pretty great effect. But there is now a fully decompiled Mario Kart 64 basically ready for a PC port. If someone wanted to implement PC controls and maybe a settings menu overlay or something like that, so you could choose your resolution and aspect ratio and all this kind of stuff. We've seen similar projects with Ocarina of Time has been fully decompiled and now has a full PC port. Same with Majora's Mask. In fact, Majora's Mask was the one that kicked off this new way of thinking about decompilation. Also, Mario 64 has been fully decompiled and has had a PC port out for the last 4 years, something like that.
Oh my god!
But the decompilations are coming faster and faster because we're starting to learn more and more about the hardware that they're based on. And in fact, if I go over to decomp.dev, there is a full list of both Nintendo 64, GameCube, and Wii games that are in various stages of decompilation, with Animal Crossing hitting 83% recently.
Mario Prime 4 is at 99.8.
Mario Party 4 is actually 100% decompiled with 99.8% accuracy, which means there's a couple functions that don't quite match up, but still compile with no errors. And so they probably have no bearing on accuracy of the code. Twilight Princess, 60% decompilation at this point.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is really cool because this will allow, again, I hope Nintendo doesn't shut this down. I don't know why they would shut this down.
They
can't because
that's the cool
part.
Yeah,
is that now we can get some really cool mods of this, and literally you could add, theoretically, whole new worlds, whole new dimensions, whole new weapons, anything you want. And with the modding community that's already out there right now, and I'm going to go back to something we talked a few episodes about, AI tools and building imagery with that, this is going to make it even easier. You could redo a bunch of cool games like this, add new levels, add new aspects, add new modes, whatnot. It will be a whole new fun thing. Actually, I just thought of this. However, okay, there's the big gaming community on YouTube that take mods. Would a Nintendo, if someone modded, say, Twilight Princess or something like that, to be new levels, new whatever, could Nintendo strike a copyright claim on them?
That is an interesting thought. So here's where my understanding of decompilation and modding is.
Yeah.
Decompilation, so long as it's done the right way, is entirely legal. Now, what do I mean by the right way? What I mean by that is no insider knowledge and no first-party knowledge of the code base is utilized. You have to do what's called a clean room approach. That is, you take the software from Nintendo. Let's keep on Twilight Princess here. You take a cartridge of Twilight Princess. You, as an individual, dump the contents of Twilight Princess, which is machine-readable code. You then, with no other influences, take the machine code and convert it back to human-readable C++ instructions. That's what decompilation is. That process of making an application or software is the greater word here, usable on a different platform, or simply decompiling it into a human-readable platform, is entirely legal and completely protected by the DMCA. Where you get into legal trouble is if you distribute assets from the game. That is, any of the artwork, sound effects, graphics, polygons, etc. Or you obtain knowledge which you shouldn't have had via things like developer kits, and using and even developer kits, like, you're allowed to use if you obtained a developer kit through legit means. Like, if I bought a Wii developer kit on eBay, I'm allowed to use the software within the developer kit because the license is tied to the hardware of that developer kit. So I could use the developer kit to help decomp a game, so long as I'm not using any proprietary code bases.
So you're saying, in theory, if I decomped Twilight Princess and then, in theory, changed the music and the sound effects to my own, I could then theoretically sell it to Twilight
No.
Compass.
No.
because there's the code I figured out, and then all of the audio, and none of the
Um,
code is the
you
same.
can't sell it. You can open source it. You can give away the code base and say, here is a human readable code base of the framework of Twilight Princess.
And then that's what we're seeing right here.
What you cannot include in that code base is any of the graphical or sound effect assets, because those are still under a different form of copyright. So,
and if I replaced all of that,
to run a decomped game, a user must obtain a compatible ROM file to which they can extract the assets themselves. That's how you get around copyright.
All right, hang on a second. So in theory, if someone decompiled Twilight Princess, they could then spend the next, because now they have all the base code of how it does. Mm-hmm. They could then change all of the graphics and sprites, because that's on their own terms. Mm-hmm. Theoretically make a whole brand new game and redistribute it.
You're not wrong.
But it's the exact same story, same premise, but instead of Link, it's Bob.
No, you couldn't do it on the same story, but game mechanics in and of themselves are not copyrightable.
I'm saying, they took the same base and they changed.
If they took
a certain
the
percentage
for Twilight Princess, and so they're using like the mechanics of press A to roll and press B to slash, and they're executing that code that they decompiled. But
the world and the logistics behind all the stories, but all they had to do was change the text of the story to therefore make a different meaning.
No, you'd still be on some shaky ground.
I think that's an interesting, because you could change enough of a story. This is the reason why you have to go here, but it's really you're going to the same map, but I named the map something different now.
No. Here's where we're getting into the legal battle between the Pokemon Company and Pal World that's going on. This is kind of this is also Japanese versus U.S. copyright law. And again, this is my own interpretation. I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. Is in U.S. copyright law, game mechanics, that is press a button and a character swings a sword, and then press it again. And he swings it a different way in a fluid motion, and you get like multiple interactions for single button presses.
Combos, whatever.
But historically, we know that a sword exists and that you were supposed to swing a sword in offense or use a sword in defense. And there is a mechanic based on game controllers, which are very well established at this point, of how people interact with software game mechanics on their PCs or gaming consoles, that certain buttons may introduce certain mechanics. Those mechanics in and of themselves are not copyrightable. That's how the US law exists. In Japan, there are certain things which are copyrightable, such as writing on top or underneath of a captured monster that you captured in a ball. Look, I think even in Japan it's shaky ground, but they're seeing the lawsuits out, which frustrates me when they should have been thrown out from their impetus, because capturing creatures inside of balls and using them for your own amusement and playthings and cockfighting is not even unique to Pokemon, nor was Pokemon the first. Nor were Pokemon's art assets even original to Pokemon the game, or the card game, or anything that came before. Like, there was a whole series of monster-based mechanics in popular media in Japan that existed long before Pokemon. And the Pokemon Company and Nintendo at large are trying to restrict those. I think Nintendo and Pokemon will still eventually lose, but Pal World is bearing the brunt of the legal challenge, and that pisses me off. But mechanics that you would be able to think of on your own, and even those a step beyond, in the US legal system are not copyrightable. That is shooting a gun, using a gun in ways it wasn't meant to be used, building a structure. Like, think of Fortnite and Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing and The Legend of Zelda, and let's throw like Cyberpunk into there. Like, could you think of 5 more different games? Cool.
Yeah.
If those are the 5 games that were ever made and they were copyrighted, no one would ever be able to make another game ever. Other than like Balatro. Yeah. Let's throw Balatro in there as the 6th game to throw a card mechanic in there. If those were copyrightable mechanics, no one would ever be able to write another game ever.
No, the really, okay, so the back to kind of my point was, the other, or not point, but an idea was, I think the other really cool thing about this is that this code will be able to be developed. And I think there's an interesting aspect into modern gaming of, there's a lot of modern games that are coming out now, and there's so much. The market is being flooded so much. Mm-hmm. And that's a great thing, I think, that because there's so many, there's easier ways to make a game for us, the consumer, to enjoy. Mm-hmm. That does flood the market. However, there are a lot of classic games that we do love, and if the mechanics are there for them, people can build it. It's kind of almost like, I think of, say, Final Fantasy. I've always loved.
I was literally just gonna say, if Final Fantasy 1 came out.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2, but yeah, exactly.
Baldur's Gate 3 would not exist because it is a turn-based role-playing mechanic with swappable armor.
I was gonna use Baldur's Gate. It was like, yeah, no, totally example.
Yeah,
you got it.
Yeah.
No, you know. So
before you even said Final Fantasy, that's the reference I was gonna make. Is if Final Fantasy walked or crawled, Baldur's Gate 3 could not have walked.
Exactly, and so this can help develop new developers and gamers and mm-hmm. fun games that we're going to be able to enjoy. And I still would enjoy an 8-bit, a 16-bit Final Fantasy-esque Baldur's Gate, or, you know, all that, if it was good storytelling. Yeah. But then someone came up with a different story, a different way to do it. Like, this is cool. And then,
do you know what's fun about all of that? Is let's go Baldur's Gate back to Final Fantasy, mm-hmm. And even include some games that you wouldn't expect in between, Fallout and Elder Scrolls, and games like that. Do you know what they're all based off of? They're all based on D20 dice rolls from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Morrowind, 100% of its game mechanics
is all
are based on D20 dice rolls.
Did Rhett somehow pop in there?
Look, when he's right, okay? Is Morrowind a great modern game? No, but it also crawled so other games could walk. Like, it helped modernize the PC-based role-playing game. It introduced a lot of the mechanics that were later refined by every other title, and that Oblivion and Skyrim flourished in. But every role-playing game on the PC that you've ever played is based on the premise of dice rolls. Even your mechanic of swinging in a first-person role-playing game, swinging a sword in Morrowind, is based on your probability to hit and what amount of damage you did.
No, there was even a character in Final Fantasy VI, you had to time it. And again, it's very similar to a dice roll.
It's a digital tabletop role-playing game. Absolutely it is. Yeah.
KOTOR's
and what is that? Divinity Original Sin and a lot of these these are all tabletop role-playing games just made digital. That's all they are.
But this comes back to a difference between gaming of I develop my character to be so high level, and so therefore now whenever I hit A, boom, he's always going to do a direct hit. No, it should always be upon the user end to learn the skill of the character to then be like, okay, this is the timing aspect I have to learn. Even back to old Street Fighter 2 time fighting games, there's a timing aspect of when I have to do up, down, down. That's what made old school games fun. Even like a Contra or Double Dragon or something, there's a timing of when you have to shoot up, shoot down, left, right. There's all of these patterns you had to learn, and that's still a very addictive thing that still hits our dopamine. And even modern kids today, more so than just cool effects, cool storytelling, and cool cut scenes and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's you can have a simple game and it be a AAA title and be like, this was the best game ever. When are they making a sequel to it? Because of just the basic mechanics of it and the way it works and the challenge. It's great. I truly miss those. I do love playing games with high-end graphics, but I personally do think a lot of modern games kind of miss that old school aspect of it.
Yeah.
And that's where those third-party developers really goes back to a deep cut of what I was saying, even a longer video, but earlier, the handheld of the Switch. That's why I like the Switch. The Switch was always came out to be a very easy third-party developer tool for the handheld. And we got a lot of really fun, interesting games. Steam does something very similar. Yes. And that's why I also think Steam could be the new OS. Again, all of it comes out to being that way. You don't need to be a Baldur's Gate, type of big, a World of Warcraft. You don't need to be that. You could be a cool, fun game. Was it Meat Boy? Meatwad? That was a fun game. Yeah. Meat Boy. That was it was like, it was stupid. It's fun. 16-bit, I think, of just jumping out chainsaws and cutting up.
Yeah.
It was the ultimate awesome game for before Mario Builder was Ultimate Mario Builder.
It was Super Mario World meets Geometry Dash.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Which Geometry Dash itself is like a Super Mario World on steroids.
Yeah, it's but super addicting.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And you don't have to spend millions of dollars on development. But hey, speaking of video games and millions of dollars of development, there is kind of a switch in millions of dollars of development, but that's going to be on Amazon Prime for a video game.
Yes.
And that's Fallout. Honestly, I will say I've heard a lot of good things. I still haven't watched the first season.
You need to watch season 1.
I still haven't, but I heard good
Number
things.
One, were you a fan of any of the Fallout games?
I do like Fallout. I do like Fallout. I thought it's like the first two games, and Vegas was good. I like
If
Vegas.
you are even tangentially aware of Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, and even the first two, even Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and we could throw Tactics in there. If you're at all tangentially aware of the games, you will enjoy the hell out of this. You don't need a deep understanding because they do a really good job of world building by showing, not telling. And that's one thing I absolutely love is my wife would start catching on to game mechanics simply by watching the show. Like they did such a good job at wrapping some of the video game esoteric in. One of the funniest things that they did is there's a faction, there's the Brotherhood of Steel. Okay, the Brotherhood of Steel is the knights that they have like a royal type system of rule. And their whole thing is they want to collect technology to preserve it, but also to control it. And so they're both the saviors of the wasteland, but also like the Nazis of the wasteland. Like they play
Yeah.
both roles, and depending on the game you play, they fit either. And but there's a mechanic within the game that if you ever get a companion, if you ever get someone who hangs around with you and will walk around with you, you go, hey, I can't possibly carry 300 pounds worth of stuff. Why don't you haul it for me? And so you'll take like, oh, that's like 7 really cool guns that I found inside this abandoned facility. I'm just going to give them to my companion, and my companion will carry them, right? In Fallout, the TV show, every knight sent out by the Brotherhood is given a squire to follow around. And the squire is given a backpack larger than the squire. That seemingly weighs like 200 to 300 pounds. And so you have like this Brotherhood knight in a full mech suit armor, who's walking around, who could lift 300 pounds with his little finger. And all he's doing is walking around and carrying a rifle or carrying a pistol, pistol
gun,
or whatever he's got. And he's got a squire who's just some 18-year-old putz that he found in the wasteland that's carrying this gigantic backpack behind him going, and my wife goes, is that what happens in the game? I went, yeah, basically any companion you meet instantly becomes your backpack. And it was the greatest visualization of that mechanic I've ever seen. So, like I said, if you're at all a fan of the games, you will immediately recognize everything implemented perfectly within the TV show. The TV show has some really interesting characters, some really great plot points. It's got some really zany interactions. There's one early on with Lucy, the main character, running into one of her first people that she meets above ground, above the vaults. And he's banging on some piece of equipment with a wrench. And she's like, what are you doing there? And he goes, oh, trying to get this water purifier to work. I keep feeding it sand, but I can't get anything out of it. And she goes, have you tried putting water in it? And he goes, I hadn't thought of that. And you get those kind of interactions in the game. Like you'll have those conversations within the game, and to see it like played out in real time, it's fantastic.
Yeah. No, as far as video game adaptions for TV or movies has always been extremely, extremely hard. You know, there's rare exceptions. I don't even enjoy the new modern Mortal Kombat movie. No. Original one, perfect. Second one was horrible.
Original one was like the right blend of didn't take itself seriously, and so was able to play. That's Fallout
and great, and great 90s techno. But yeah, and that's what I was going to say. That's what I hear. Fallout, the TV show, is pretty good. You know what I heard was Twisted Metal, but I haven't watched that one either.
I have not caught that one either.
Yeah, I heard that one was pretty good. Peacock, I think it was. Anyways, Fallout 3, Fallout got renewed for already season 2 and season 3.
That's right.
Is what the announcement is.
Yes.
So we will. The cool thing about this is that this allows them to do a bit more storytelling within the show, which people that do love this game, which is within our community that we do love this game. Again, New Vegas and stuff like that. One of my personal favorites. Was this can then develop a story now instead of just one-off quick, we have to develop characters so everyone knows this. Now we can possibly get storytelling, and that's the cool thing about a video game show and something like Fallout, a very heavy storytelling. We need the world around this. This is almost, think of Walking Dead-esque. You want this big world.
Yeah.
You want this whole storytelling thing and the kooky characters. And the best part is there's actually a little bit more humor in this than say Walking Dead. There's characters. That's the thing.
Yes.
And Amazon has the budget to do this. And if they do it right, could be multi-seasonal Pest 3. So I really like that. And if they continue this genre, what I was thinking was this would then probably give the green light for more video game-based storytelling shows. And that could be a bad thing, could be a good thing, because there's plenty of bad ways to have that happen. But some of our favorite video games could become live action shows.
Yeah.
I really like that idea.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on this?
No, because we have beer news. And
Yes.
we should probably start wrapping up. So.
Yes. This one I'm extremely excited about. This is almost 10 years in the making. Or coming back, I should say.
Yeah, kept full circle. Yeah.
Full circle here. Goose Island. If anyone knows about the Goose Island Bourbon County Stout, in 2015, just give me a second before you switch the article.
Yes.
In 2015, Goose Island switched to the 19.5 ounce, or I think 2 ounce, whatever it is, bottle. And they used to have a 4-pack of 12 ounce bottles. Mm-hmm. That's how it was distributed. And unfortunately, so I did a little bit of research. Unfortunately, the first version of it was the 2015, and it was all infected.
Yeah.
And that was the infected year. And if anyone is a beer collector in this community, I know there's a few skulls in here probably sitting there. Yeah. I have a bottle of 2015. They had to refund so many distributors because of that, and it was a bad batch. And a lot of people thought back then they're going to switch back to the old format, and they never did. They kept with that 19 ounce 0.2 ounce bottle and just kept going instead of the 22 ounce bomber, which was very common. Now we got the 19.2 ounce can.
Yeah.
And they just kept going with it until now. Now they're going to be releasing a brand new, for the 2025 season, a 4-pack of 10.4 ounce bottles. And that I'm extremely excited for, is you're going to be able to get a 4-pack for roughly around the same price as your standard 19 ounce, which they ended up raising to like $22, I thought, this past year. It was kind of ridiculous. So I'm really excited. And look at that, I actually really like those bottles.
Yeah.
Little nubby,
little stubby brown boys. Oh yes.
Yeah, right. Look at that. That's super cool. And
that's some Miller High Life crap.
Right. I know. It's going to be a new collector's item for a lot of people this year. As far as I know, it is only the standard. It's not going to be the variants. The variants will still be in the higher bottle proofs. But I think these are going to go fast because, one, they're going to be a collector's item. Two, they're going to be roughly around the same price, so $20 probably a 4-pack. But think about this: your standard taproom visit is about a 10-ounce pour for anything above 9%. So these are roughly around 10 to 14%. I think the standard's like 10% ish. So that's right around the perfect pour you usually get for yourself. So $20 to $22, depending upon your region, you get 10% really high quality barrel aged stuff. To me, this is perfect because I want to buy a 4-pack and I get to age 2 of them. You know, I get to have one now. I can age one for a few months.
By the way, Skull grabbed one of his original 10-ounce bottles off the shelf.
There we go. Well, see, that doesn't look good. I like the
little stubby boys. Yeah,
the little stubby boys. Yeah, that looks cool. So you got custom bottles all coming out. So when does this come out? This comes out. Goose Island always comes out Black Friday.
Black Friday. Yep.
So, yeah.
Really
cool beer news.
I'm excited because as I tend to be a solo beer drinker in my house. Like, um, my wife and my sister who live with me right now, they both very much like cider. My sister will drink the occasional beer, which I love cider too. I do not discriminate in this house. But when it comes to like a bourbon barrel aged stout, it's not their jam. And so like if I want to drink a Bourbon County stout, it's a 19-ounce commitment from me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know this, filming a video and drinking a 13% 19-ounce stout takes some effort. It takes something out of you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. End of the video, you're like, yeah, that was a good shoot. And you go back to edit, you're like, I was slurring my words halfway through it.
One of my most popular tutorials, I don't remember which, but one of my most popular tutorials, I opened a 14% beer, and you can tell at the end. There's been a couple of videos like that where it's like, all right, buckle up, this one's gonna be good, and then I look at the beer and it's like 22 ounce of 14 point. Oh god.
Yep.
Yeah. Then I have to read the teleprompter and make sense the entire time.
And then there's editing. You're like, I can't go back and edit that now. I don't want to reshoot that. I got to reset this up. All right, how do I work this? And then you open up another 14%. You're like, good enough. I don't care anymore.
Yeah. Yep. But no, I'm super excited about the new smaller bottle because 10 ounce of a bourbon barrel aged stout, even the standard 12%er, 11.6, Bourbon County. Honestly, sometimes you just want a really good stout and you just want a good solid tulip of it. Like, I would even like to see a 4-pack of 8-ounce bottles. Like, that's what I'd like when it comes to some of the bigger beers. Like, even this, even 9% at 19 ounces, it's kind of a commitment. If I open this beer, I'm staying home for a number of hours because I don't play around at all with drinking and driving. And
so to put it this in, last year's Bourbon County brand stout, 14.7%.
Yeah.
So that's, but that came in a 19-ounce bottle. And so, yeah, you're right. But if it came in a 10-ounce, not saying, but 10 ounce, you're cutting almost 40% out. And you get to save that 40% and it being fresh.
A 19.2 ounce bottle at 14.7% is 2.8 ounces of straight ether.
Yeah.
I could take a 1.5 ounce shot of an 80 proof liquor, and that is 0.6 ounces. 0.6 ounces of straight ether.
Yeah. So no,
4.5 times a shot of 4.5 shots of Jack Daniels to equal one 19-ounce bottle of a Bourbon County stout.
Yeah,
I'm excited for a 10-ounce bottle.
No, and again too, back to being a 4. I get to age these now too.
Yes,
I don't have to buy multiples, and then when I age the second one, I don't have to be like, oh, I gotta wait now to do this. If I wanted to have, again, for you and I, we love the fresh, the 1 year, and then maybe a 5 year.
Yeah.
Now that's a 3-bottle commitment.
That's $60.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This, I get to have that in the $20 range. I honestly might buy 2 packs of this. I probably will.
I was already spending $60. I might as well just spend 40 on 8 bottles.
Exactly. And then enjoy it. I might do the 1 month, 6 months, 1 year.
Yeah.
You know, try that.
And tell you what, I got one more bottle out of that 4-pack to age
Out
for
of
5
that four.
years.
Exactly.
And I can open up increments in between.
Exactly. So I love that they're doing this. I really hope if this does catch on really soon, they do other variants. I understand doing larger variants, but I do know Dragon's Milk.
Yeah.
I hope they go with that aspect, but I know Goose Island, maybe not, but still, I really appreciate at least the standard.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to picking that up. So that'll be cool.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
It's 8:34.
8:34. Hey, we got through the news tonight. How about that, folks? First time in a little while. We did it.
We did actually, these are, in all honesty, all of the articles we had in all of our notes.
Yeah. I did have one more.
Okay.
And that was the VPN one. That was the
oh yeah, we did miss that one. Yeah. Sorry.
There was a VPN company that it was a venture capitalist that bought a VPN company. And
didn't read the fine print.
Quote, didn't know that a number of its customers had lifetime subscriptions and then simply canceled those lifetime subscriptions. Sorry, if you want to keep using this product, you have to pay for it. It's like, but we already paid for it, and we have a contract that says we paid for it, and we have a perpetual license. Sound familiar, VMware?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't it like 80% of their clientele?
Something like that.
Which,
my point on this one was there is absolutely no way in the world that a venture capitalist bought a VPN company without knowing to the T how many customers had perpetual licenses and how many customers paid monthly. There's no way.
Oh, I know. It was
they bought this company with the express interest of canceling those lifetime subscriptions and hooking everyone back into a monthly price.
Oh, totally. Yeah. They did their due diligence and then said, oh, we missed it. My hiney.
The company is called VPN Secure. So if you have them, maybe don't.
Yeah. So there we go.
In March, complaints started appearing online about lifetime subscriptions to VPN Secure no longer working. The first public response Ars Technica found came on April 28th when lifetime subscription holders reported receiving an email from the VPN holders saying, quote, to continue providing a secure and high-quality experience for all users, lifetime deal accounts have now been deactivated as of April 28th, 2025. A copy from the email from the VPN Secure team posted to Reddit notes that VPN Secure had previously deactivated accounts with lifetime subscriptions that it had said hadn't been used, quote, in over 6 months. The message noted that VPN Secure was acquired in 2023, including the technology, domain, and customer database, but not the liabilities, end quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't get that VPN.
Yep.
All right, I gotta go.
Yes. You go.
It's not. It's toiletry issues.
Yes. Yes, cool. I was gonna go. How do I end that on that one? Cool. That's gonna do it for us in episode 382 of Talking Heads.
Oh my gosh.
382.
Oh my gosh. What are we doing for 400, Jeff?
We got to do something. Yeah. We got to do something big.
Vegas!
Hold on, I have an idea. I'm gonna text you now and you can't say anything.
Oh wait, that one. Okay. All right.
I just want you to react. That's what we're gonna do.
Oh yeah! Yes! Let's do that!
Yes, let's do that. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time for the latest in beer and tech news. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you enjoyed talking about here on the show today. Subscribe to Hops and Brews if you like the beer content in this video, in which sometimes I show up, sometimes we do random shenanigans, sometimes John makes me drink pickle beer.
That's a Discord exclusive, by the way. I didn't post that live, Jeff. So you're
It still
welcome.
happened. It still happened.
It did, but the community demanded it, and I live for the community.
You acquiesced.
Yes.
You are a benevolent creator. This has been so much fun. Like I said, join us every week. Subscribe, like, comment, all the YouTube things, help the algorithm. And as always, we'll see you next week. Cheers, everyone.
See you guys.
Out.
All right, I do actually have to go pee.
I figured.
So I was like, honestly,